So for 33 years, spoiler alert, we've recruited hundreds of people a year, and there's real depth. You imagine talking to someone who were recruited 30 years ago and said, what was that slice like of Kings in your life and what direction did that take you in? So I think on reflection, really, when we're talking about people and interactions that you have with people and different paths that can take, horizons broadening, I think there's lots of different avenues to getting to an end result. And I think I don't know anyone who's ever started off with one, at school, started off with one career aspiration and they've ended up exactly there. Maybe there's a few people, but really it's because life redirects you. And university can be one of those formative experiences. And if university just gives you the ability to live independently, meet new friends, move away from the area that you grew up, and it broadens your horizons in terms of the people you meet or the things that you might learn, then I think it is worth it.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Drive Phase podcast from Coordinate Sports. This is your show about sports founders, leaders, and experts and the stories behind their business journeys. I've just finished up a conversation with Andrew Busby, the CEO at King's Camps. They operate over 50 locations, working with about 10,000 children every week during the holidays. And we had a great discussion, mainly actually focused on people and their kind of ethos and culture behind finding those superstars to work on their events and within their wider team. So plenty of lessons to be learned for all of our listeners who are running their own business and looking for great staff and trying to build great teams. We also discussed his journey into kind of what is actually a non-profit organisation and the what it means to him to work for such a kind of purpose-driven organisation. So yeah, anyone who's operating a team, working in school holidays, delivering camps and activities in that arena, it's a great listen. Likewise, anyone who's looking, like all business owners, to find the best talent and recruit and retain them. So I hope you enjoy the show. As always, we'd love to hear your comments, so please leave some feedback in the comment section. I'll leave you to enjoy the show. Okay, I'm really delighted to be joined today by Andrew Busby. He's the CEO of King's Camps. It's a not-for-profit organisation serving more than 10,000 children across 50 venues across the UK and actually further afield, working primarily in the school holidays. But it's a great opportunity to sit down and have a chat with Andrew. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No, excited. And I quoted a few stats there. I don't know, there's a few others in terms of number of staff and things like that are pretty impressive in terms of hundreds of staff throughout the summer months. And we'll get into talking about how you find those guys and retain them and support them to deliver a great service. But what we normally do, for those people, the few that don't know who King's Camps are, and maybe you've never met yourself, we just kind of get to know you a little bit. And we always talk about our kind of journey into where we are in our careers. And because we work with kids, we always look at like your experience as a child, kind of growing up and primarily in sport, maybe activity. So what was your childhood like if you look at it from a kind of a physical activity perspective?
Pretty boring, really. So to be honest, I grew up in the Midlands, and then say 50% on the Isle of Wight, so Hampshire. I enjoyed school, but I wasn't massively academic. I was one of those kids in the middle. Sport and activity I loved. I'd play football any opportunity I got, and rugby was big for me. And it was an opportunity really just to run around, do something different, burn off steam with my friends and be together, basically. So that was my experience of sport, almost entirely positive.
This is good to know because not everyone has that same positive experience. But would you say you were more of a creative individual, or maybe even now, like I know you kind of went on to study art and stuff like that in university. So was that kind of your first passion? Obviously sport is always there, but is that your first passion?
Do you know what? I think so. I think I still am probably closet creative. So music and art was always my thing. It's what I was good at, really. So I went on, school, studied art, did A-level, things like that. I was reasonably good at music. And then I went on to Winchester School of Art. So when I was 18, went and did that for a year, foundational year. And then I went on to Leeds and I did fine art and design up there. And that was my path, really. So school, I was reasonably good at art. So I was pushed when you go and see the career advisor and they say, what are you good at? And you go, well, I'm a pretty good artist. And they do a bit of writing and they go, I think you should be an artist. So, or a designer. And you go, oh, great. So I went and did that. And then I went on, and that went pretty well and I enjoyed it. And I went on to university and that's what I studied. So up until I was about, 22, 23, I was going to be an artist stroke designer. And that's what I was going to do. Left university, realized that's what I didn't want to do. And and started working for a brewery. And then I went on to work for Asda Walmart, actually, which was very formative. So I went Asda House. I worked in Asda House in Leeds. I did that for about 5 or 6 years. And I was in Asda Walmart. They owned Asda at the time. And I would say probably business-wise, that was my most formative experience in terms of culture, the way people do stuff, how business and processes connect to culture and connect, I suppose, to great outcomes. So that was my journey.
So that one definitely, looking at kind of structure, process, and how it's been done at a massive scale, it must have been really interesting to see from the ground up. But I'm curious on the reasons, just in terms of like art being your passion, and you were following that, and I guess I can understand the attraction, like working with a brewery, like leaving university and going to work for a brewery or whatever. But maybe that when you said you realised you didn't want to do that, was that because I guess you dedicate a lot of your time and life and stuff and education towards it. Was there kind of a, because everyone always looks like, well, I want to get a career in my work where my passion is and stuff like that. So what was the kind of the point you thought, oh, this isn't really for me?
Do you know what I did? And what education directed me towards? They directed me towards what I was good at. They didn't find out what I loved. And those are two different things, I think. So you can be good at maths, but you might not want to be a mathematician or an engineer. You might love animals. So you should be a vet. So I think the difference was, I suppose, if we're talking about a lesson through all of that time, I would say I was directed towards what I was good at. I wasn't asked about what I loved, or I wasn't invited really to find out about what I loved. And what I found through working and I remember that as a really formative experience working for Asda Walmart, is what I found was I loved the process of business and how businesses operate and how business connects to culture, values, and how you get good outcomes in that way. And really, I think what I should have done is not go to university. I should have been put onto a graduate scheme or apprenticed into a mail room and then got to work in the office. And really, what I should have done is gone into business, I think.
No, I guess the segue in terms of, just because I'm curious, your thoughts on that comment there about potentially not going to university. I've got, I guess, similar attitude towards it in terms of specific careers, pathways. What's your thoughts around where we are now? I mean, it's a different time, I suppose, from when we went to university. But would you recommend that to, I guess, your kids or whatever as they're coming up? Would you say, like, university not the path unless it's for certain things? Or how do you see that planning out? Especially someone who recruits so many people, right? You see so many people coming out of uni and in the middle of uni and their experience.
So for 33 years, spoiler alert, we've recruited hundreds of people a year. And there's real depth. You imagine talking to someone who were recruited 30 years ago and said, what was that slice like of Kings in your life? And what direction did that take you in? So I think on reflection, really, when we're talking about people and interactions that you have with people and different paths that can take, horizons broadening, I think there's lots of different avenues to getting to an end result. And I think I don't know anyone who's ever started off with one, at school, started off with one career aspiration and they've ended up exactly there. Maybe there's a few people, but really it's because life redirects you. And university can be one of those formative experiences. And if university just gives you the ability to live independently, meet new friends, move away from the area that you grew up, and it broadens your horizons in terms of the people you meet or the things that you might learn, then I think it is worth it. I think young people should put their hand up and say yes. They should jump in and get involved in things, and they should seek experiences, really, because that will really lead them to their own path. And it ultimately, going to university probably allowed me to get a job at Asda Walmart, because I had a qualification, I could demonstrate something I'd done previously. And it pushed me on to that next step where I actually figured out what I needed to do or what I love doing. And maybe that was 4 years and £30,000 worth of debt later, but it was still that experience which took me there. I don't think everyone needs to go to uni. I think what's important probably for schools or educators is to try and find out, really trying to nail down quite early the direction that people should be going in, where their skills lie, but where their passions lie, and then where they should be pushed. But yeah, I think the UK especially is overpraised that university is the only route to getting on in life. And there are definitely loads of different routes. That said, university can be one of them. So I don't think people should sweat too much about the choices they make, where they might go to travel, whether they should take a gap year, because I think you will get there eventually. And I think the more experiences, the better, really, as long as you can walk away from it.
Yeah, I agree. I think life experience, I guess that's probably you probably, when you're recruiting people, you're going to look at plenty of CVs with stellar academic records and stuff. But I guess the bit that you're going to talk about with them, or the conversation you're going to have, is about, oh, look, tell me about this time you went to X, or you travelled through there, or whatever, the society you joined in uni. I think that's probably where we might struggle in terms of, as things go more remote, it's like making sure people still have those experiences, because you could go to university anywhere in the world, right, and not leave your house, but you need to be able to engage, I guess, in those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, connecting, this is the thing about camp, really. You're connecting with children and you're responsible for their care, but you're also within a team, you're within a group. For a lot of people, that can be the formative experience, not the sports activities that they run, but the friends that they make and the role models that they find on camp. So yeah, I think encouraging all people, including young people, to connect with others and to go out into the world safely, and to go and live in places, meet with people that they didn't grow up with, go and work, and make all those connections, really, and dive in. That's definitely to be recommended. Yeah, 100%.
So if we kind of jump back to the kind of Walmart days, so I'm guessing I might be wrong, but I picture it as you're a rising star in the Walmart ecosystem empire, and then you're making that decision to move on to a new role. And obviously, I'm thinking, am I right in thinking you went straight from there into Kings?
Yeah. So part of my job I think I was in the estates department at as a Walmart, and as a result of that, I looked after their parking infrastructure and all of that kind of stuff. So I actually moved into parking and transportation, and I was in that sector for a couple of companies for. A professional would have looked up these timescales, but probably let's say 10 years. I was in the parking transportation sector, and again, really wasn't really about parking machines or cameras or sensors in the ground or car parks. It was about the ways that those businesses operated and their partners. City of Westminster, let's say police, local authorities, retailers, a lot of retailers, and the connection with all of those people and kind of solving their problems or meeting a need, and the way those organizations operated, and the way that they thought about things and planned. I was in for all of that. I loved all of that, really. So I'll be honest, I think you could put me, I think I could be selling, I don't know, I could be working in a garden centre and I could be selling botanicals, or I could be selling, pot plants or shrubs. And I think I'd really, really become an expert in that field, and I would love the process as long as it was a business that was
ethical, yeah,
ethical, and it was geared up. I think I would love that process. And what's really important to me actually is culture as well. So connecting with that culture. So good, positive, clear culture around expectations, about business processes, about the way that organization operates, what they think, a core ethos, possibly a foundational person as well in that organization. So yeah, and I was in parking and transportation for 10 years, something like that. And then I don't know whether we want to shift on to Kings actually in that transition.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, being in any career 10 years, you build up a lot of experience. I guess there's a pathway to growth in that. I guess probably a moment where you think, right, I'm going to stay in this sector and then go to the next level, or I guess was that the crossroads you found yourself thinking of?
Yeah, I think it was more. So I think after a long time, or a relatively long time in any organisation, I think, and especially as you age, then what can often occur is your values change, or you start. So, for example, you might get married and have children, and the way that you look at the world changes, or you might have your set of beliefs might change, and the way that you look at the world and the things that you believe happen in the world change. So I'm talking a little bit generally, but I'm talking more about as you age, and you'll probably find this, James, your principles change, and you maybe seek something a little bit more. So there was a point in time where I saw a job opportunity come up within a not-for-profit. And Kings is a bit unusual because we are commercial in the way that we operate. We generate all of our own income. And we have very commercial partnerships with independent schools, universities, different organisations that we serve and we work for. At that point, I think we were quite strong in the cruise and resort and the leisure sector. And they had an opening for someone to look after their partnerships and business development and all of that kind of stuff, really. So keeping things stable and then growing the organisation and the partnerships that we have. So I went in for that job and I got it. And that was about 8.5 years ago. And I remember immediately going on the website and researching. And then when I came in for the interview, I remember immediately connecting to the culture that was very clear within the organisation about the overriding mission. So why Kings exists and how they deliver their work in a business-like way, in a way that's sustainable, but process and model driven. And I remember we're almost kind of falling in love with the organisation and thinking, if I don't get this job, that would be the worst thing in the world. But luckily I got it. So there you go.
And it's probably a good time I really want to talk about that kind of, it's almost like social enterprise model in terms of you are a commercial operator, but it's all done to not have to live off those grants, which a lot of kind of not for profits do struggle with, like year on year, kind of that battle. But in terms of the founding of Kings, were you able to speak to a little bit of that in terms of, I know you joined 8 years ago, but before that, like you said, you've got a really great history. So it'd be good to hear in terms of the founding story.
It's a story we tell a lot, actually, because it's foundational really to why we exist. So it's important that everyone who joins the organisation really understands. So 1991, the organisation was formed by a group of individuals in Sheffield, and the purpose of the organisation. So we can sum it up we have a mission statement, but really the purpose of the organisation is to improve the lives of children through sport and activity. So schools have a role in people's lives around education and values, and lots of organisations do lots of different things in the lives of children and young people. We use sport and activity as a tool to help children and young people develop confidence around their own bodies, their own capabilities, develop lines of communication or working in groups, winning and losing. All of the stuff, James, that I'm sure sport, activity, team games taught you, but you were completely unconscious of when you were young. You were just learning these values. So that's what Kings strives to do. We use sport and activity as a tool to improve the lives of children in the UK and globally. And as you say, applying for grants, government money, it's a tenuous world. So they set up sports activity camps, so day camps in the UK. I think the first one was in Sheffield, and then it grew. And over 33 years, I think that's right, 32, 33 years, since 1991, that model was grown into 50 locations from Aberdeen to Cornwall, about 16,000 child weeks a year. As you say, 9 to 10,000 unique children a year. And we run during all the school holidays, and we need about 700 people a year to do that, who are inspirational, they're safe, they're experienced. And we have an operation that's grown to accommodate that. We invite children onto our camps. Some pay to come on where they can, and some we invite on. It's a subsidised places scheme, so it's like a bursary scheme. And then in selected communities as well, we'll go into, especially next year, we'll be going into those communities and we'll be offering free activity sessions into local schools around our venues to get children active, having fun and learning together for free.
Awesome. And I know over the years, and I don't know if it's still a focus of the organisation now, but I know kind of certain initiatives potentially abroad, and I know you're obviously heavily into kind of, like you mentioned there, in terms of the cruise ship industry and stuff like that, and recruitment. Is that something that I guess was of its time and isn't so much anymore? Or is that something you continue to do nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, we were really actually pre-COVID. We, in terms of training on cruise and resorts, in terms of, in some cases, running children's clubs and providing people for opportunities to work abroad, we were a really reasonable size in doing that. Actually, we were a large operator. COVID hit. I suppose actually talking about the purpose of doing that. So our aspiration was always to increase levels of activity within the cruise and resort industry, increase levels of safety, and to equip and inspire people on those resorts to do that. So that work was completely in line with our mission, and yeah, we did that 4 years all over the world, and it was great. COVID happened, of course. The travel industry shut down, and COVID also allowed us to think about and refocus a little bit around what we were doing, our model, how we operated, because sometimes over time you can diversify and lose impact on one or two of the things that you're doing as an organization. So we took the decision to focus more on our camps, and that's all what we do broadly now, is that we are really focusing and leaning in on sports activity camps and interacting with the communities in which we inhabit. So cruise and resort might come back, but actually I think we're very focused as an organisation on expanding our reach within the UK and internationally within the context of camp.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know obviously COVID's an eye-opener for a lot of people. I think a lot of organisations, businesses, and because you do work in that kind of organised professional manner, was it a case of like you looked at, right, these are all of our income streams? So obviously it was kind of, at the time, probably disappeared because everything shut down, but is it almost asking that question, because a lot of people this might resonate with, we offer this service, we started doing it for one reason or whatever, it's got to this point, and when you strip it all back, does it make a margin? Does it take, I guess, the resources to deliver it? When you weigh it up, is it almost like we're doing it for a break even? Or was that the reason, or was it just that it's just in terms of lack of focus?
It's focus. It's focus. Yeah, I mean, at King's, often revenue and profit, or revenue and surplus income, are one of the last questions we ask. The first question we always ask is about impact. So are we staying true to our mission? Are we doing what we set out to do? Are we delivering on the promises that we make? And roughly the answer is actually always yes. But I think being able to focus and being able to perfect one thing as an organisation is a good step, and that's what we chose to do. So we chose to step away and not actively restart our work within the leisure industry, and to focus on our camps really in terms of quality, growth to a certain extent. I'd call that reach. So the number of children that we can reach out and get active. And also, becoming a bit of a leaner operation, cutting processes out and things that are potentially unnecessary for, if you're working across a diverse number of sectors. So really, I think it was about simplification to increase the level of impact that we had. I mean, COVID seems like a distant memory now, but in the scale of things, it was a relatively recent occurrence. So, and in certain ways, we're still feeling the impact of that. So I would say that's our policy now, and that's the route that we're pursuing, which is simplicity, but to perfect what we do.
No, I love that. In terms of the model as it stands at the moment, my question was going to be around: would you prefer to have, when you're looking at growth, would you prefer to have twice the number of children attending a venue, or two venues? Does that make sense? Like, you're trying to move your footprint out, trying to grow. Does that make sense? You'd rather have one camp that's absolutely jam-packed versus a new location and kind of seeing that growth geographically?
Splitting it. There's pros and cons. So some of our locations have 160 children a week. Some have 30. I think there's pros and cons to each. Some children might find those really large venues quite overwhelming and very loud. Some children might absolutely love it. Some children might find the ones that are 30 like just right for them. So I think having a diversity of locations is really important. So, I mean, ideally, I'd prefer to have lots of locations that were just jam-packed full. And to be honest, the method that we use is that we don't really grow until we've really seen a week or a season really thrive, adding weeks, adding seasons, So I think the process that we follow actually means that whenever we set anything up that's new, I think we have 4 locations in Edinburgh alone. I think to add a 5th, we'd be looking for those 4 locations to really be thriving. So I suppose that answers your question in terms of, I think we're looking for very high quality and really good experience before we go anywhere else.
Got it. And in terms of, looking for growth for the next, if you said 3 to 5 years in terms of business model and your, obviously, the focus is on the camps at the moment, but what's the kind of the vision for 3 years out, 5 years out of the organisation for yourself? Yeah,
so, growth is something that a lot of organisations and businesses desire. I think you've got to question why any organisation wants to grow and what you want to grow. I think what we'd love to grow is child numbers, so the number of children coming to us and the number of children that we, whenever we are present in the community, the number of children that we get active in that community and ways to do that. So I think there's a number of metrics that we have. Often people can focus on the number of children that we have on a week on camp. Well, we also want to grow the number of children who come to us and we subsidise or we're able to subsidise. We want to grow the number of children that we've got active at 10 local primary schools throughout the year. So I think focusing on that growth, it can be quite clarifying is probably the word, by saying, well, we don't really need more locations or more venues. What we need to do where we are is we need to do more volume where we are of all of the things that we've promised to do. And a larger camp can mean we invite more children on at a subsidised cost or at a free cost. And it also means that we have more resources to go out and provide activity sessions to local primary schools. So I think one follows the other. In terms of new locations, though, I think it is good. So, for example, there are loads of towns and cities where we're simply not present. And I do think, if we can purposefully inhabit, to the south of London, or we can go to Bristol, or we can go to different places, and we can do that really well, and we can give children in that community a taste of King's camps in all the ways I've described, then we definitely would grow into that area.
Yeah. And I know you recently launched the kind of the franchise offer for people who, or organisations or individuals who kind of align with the values and can establish the brand. Do you want to speak to that a little bit in terms of how maybe that might have been being in business for 30 plus years and then launching a franchise? Was there any challenges in that, or how did that come about?
I think it was always a desire of the organisation to allow others to operate camp. If you look at our existing model at the moment, we have, we will recruit someone who maybe to work in our camp in Aberdeen. We'll interview them. We'll do all the necessary checks. We have 30% returners anyway, year on year, and we have about 30% recommendations as well. So we have a lot of, it's 50% returners year on year, actually. So yeah, it's, so people clearly love working for camp. and it has rewards above and beyond just money. So, but we might send someone completely new to go and operate that camp. And but we do it in a way that makes sure that they're safe, they're really well trained, and they're supported, and that they have regional management and they're looked after in that way. So if you look at a franchise model in the way that you equip, train, enable, and support people to work safely and actively with children, it's kind of similar.
You've already got that platform in place, effectively.
That's the logic of it. The reality is often different, because franchising is doing a bit more. I mean, I hate the word franchising when we connect it to Kings, because franchising reminds me of a fast food chain, or I've got nothing against them. I use them regularly, but often at Kings we think we're a little bit different. So this is the way I see franchising really with Kings. So we might have a journey with a staff member. We call them red tops, and they might work for us for say 5 years, for example, and then they might go and be a site manager, and then they might be a regional manager. They might come and work at head office for us, but they usually will be seasonal staff, and there'll be a point where their life changes. They become a head teacher. We've got loads of them. They might get a family, a couple of children come along, or they might wake up one morning and their back hurts a little bit more and their knees ache and they don't want to run around on camp for 50 hours. And they might think, I'm getting a bit old for this. And we were losing, I suppose, hundreds or thousands over a number of years of people that were safe, experienced and inspiring, and that we really trusted, because really we had no place to put them, we had no way to connect with them any longer. And franchising is a way that people that we know and trust, people who've worked on camp for a number of years, people who've been regional managers, people who might even worked at head office for us in some capacity, can own our brand, our processes, our model, and they can benefit from our booking system, our infrastructure, our ATS, and the way that we operate. And they can run camps in their area where we're not present. And they can be passionate about their little bit of the country, and they can maximize that, and they can grow a business for them that works for them and their family. They can connect to something really meaningful. They can get children active, and also they can invite children on, because it's part of the franchise terms, in a subsidized way, and do active play sessions as well. So they're King's camps in all but name. They're people that we trust and we formally employed and we love to bits, but we've given them a way to stay connected to Kings. I'm just looking for a new word other than franchise.
Yeah, I'll have to come up with one. Partnerships, license, I don't know. Yeah, one of them.
There you go. I'll write all them down.
Yeah, put some comments on the video if anyone's listening.
You know what? I think the word that always springs to mind with Kings is family. And I think the people who come and join us on camp, if they come for multiple years, which sometimes they do, the children, they start to feel like family. Our red tops, the people who come back year on year, start to feel like family. And the people who work here, and some of our partners actually, I think our longest venue is something like, our longest venue relationship's about 25 years, 26 years. They start to feel like family. So that's probably it. I think we're inviting them into the family, really.
No, I like that. Is that, I guess, the way you described it and that kind of pathway through means it's a lot, what's the word? Reduces a lot of the risk, right? Because that must be one of the dangers when you're thinking about, right, I'm going to let my brand be managed by someone else. You kind of already got a pipeline of trusted individuals. Are you only looking for internals, or was it be if someone's listening in and think, oh, I align with all the values, I think I've got great experience, maybe I haven't worked for you before, but I've got a great experience. And are you looking for external organisations, people to be involved in reaching out to be part of the family? So
yeah, I think my go-to at the moment, so we're releasing a limited number of places for next year, 3 places for franchising. And my go-to at the moment is that there are plenty of red tops out there, people that we've worked with, that we work with currently, or we work with historically, who we'd like to give the opportunity to actually as a go-to. So I think there's enough demand out there already for people to connect with, and we can extend our brand and all of our processes and learning and support to people we already know. That's my logic in terms of how we should operate. I think it's important as well to stay connected to people who've been, there might have been a teacher under tremendous pressure at school, and they'd finish on their last day of school on Friday, and they'd be on camp with us on Monday, and they might have done that for 6 weeks, and they do that Easter, summer, October. I think it's okay to be loyal to those people and reward them as well, and speak to them first. But yeah, we like new people. We love meeting new people.
Talking to new people, I wanted to speak to you about recruitment and kind of, I guess, more of like state of the industry, of the market. You've given, like you said, 700 plus 750 staff every year. Having that retention and those returners must be awesome, because obviously you don't have to be recruiting from scratch. But we hear a lot of stories around kind of how the landscape's changed a lot since COVID, and how people's appetite for work and all that stuff. So it'd be interesting from someone who's right in the middle of it and also recruiting the same type of individuals as our listeners. How do you see it? Because you've got those trends as well going back so many years. Hopefully it's just, this happens every 5 years, it goes like this and it comes back again, or is that what you're thinking? Or just great to hear your thoughts on it.
I'd say the way that you find 350, 400 new people every year, maybe more than that. We always assume that no one's going to come back to us, so we always go out. It's hard work, and it's putting yourself everywhere. I think it's, we talked about jumping in when you're a young person into life, basically, and putting your hand up and saying yes. And I think that's us as well. So we do loads of lecture crashes at universities. We do loads of job fairs. Obviously, we do the standard job board adverts as well, but we encourage staff members to recommend and reach out. We have a few secret ways as well that we reach out and connect with people that I'm probably not going to reveal here, but really it's hard work. We have dedicated teams on it constantly, and it's a real challenge to find. I think you could put a job ad on Indeed or something, and you could get 2,000 CVs. I think what we're looking for is people with, we call it the King's factor. So it's this infectious energy, it's this professional way of working. It's a passion for giving children an experience of activity. And we're looking for those people. So we're looking for a very specific subset of people who apply to us. And it's based around experience, but it's also based around attitude and their approach and aptitude as well. So it's not easy. It's a constant battle. What I would say, though, is I think people, when I say young people, we recruit loads of different types of people, but I think young people are probably the people who most want these kinds of opportunities. They're looking for, I think, less about money, and they're looking for more experiences. They're looking for something meaningful to connect to. And I think telling them about why we exist and what they're part of and what they're contributing to is really important. So I would say the messaging and telling people what the purpose of that role is and what the purpose of the organization that they might be joining, what our values are. I think all of those things are really helpful, really, to, number one, you connect to the right kind of people. But number two, I think that's what young people are looking for these days. They're looking for meaningful experiences. They're looking to contribute and to connect into things that do have meaning, really, over and above money. You can work in a pub, you can fill shelves, you can do that, or you can work for Kings.
Yeah, and I guess for you, I mean, we hear the kind of commentary or narrative around, like, it's changed, people don't want to work anymore and that type of stuff. But I guess if you've always been looking for those guys with the Kings factor, it's not a case of, you've probably been working like this for years, right? It's not just because now it's a bit tougher, your processes are kind of already entrenched. But do you see that? I mean, in terms of people's attitude coming in, is it more difficult to find those guys, or you've always been kind of sifting for the perfect?
I think people who we employ these days are probably a bit more specific and definite about what they want from a contract and what they want from an employer. They're definitely more in control than, say, I was. If I would have got offered a job at Kings at 19, I would have said, great, where do you want me and when am I going to get my uniform? I wouldn't have asked lots of different questions around contracts and things like that. So I think people are more savvy these days. It's far more savvy, I think, than maybe my generation was.
You think that's just access to information then, do you think? Just because they can check that, right? We would never be able to know, you just wouldn't be able to access the information unless you knew someone who's in HR or something. You wouldn't be able to just pull it up on your phone and check, is this right?
Yeah, right? Maybe it's that. I think, I don't know. I would imagine, so for example, when I was young, I didn't have a mobile phone. That's how old I am. Contracts weren't part of my life. Contracting with organizations and stuff wasn't something I did. I wonder whether young people now have far more experience of Netflix and and contracting into things and buying services and stuff like that.
Terms,
and yeah, I think so. And just checking what the deal is really. So I think people are, but that's absolutely fine. Ask all those questions up front. I'm amazed at the number of young people I see on LinkedIn these days who are wanting to connect with employers and who are really active. I don't think we would have seen that 10 or 15 years ago. I think that's only a positive thing, actually. People who are very focused on seeking people out who can employ them or push them on or connect them or give them experiences. So I think all of that's positive. I think to your question about young people not wanting to work hard anymore, I'd say that hasn't changed. I think it's maybe people don't want a job that's meaningless. Maybe they don't want a job that contributes to nothing, even if it's a seasonal job. Maybe that's it. Maybe people aren't happy anymore to just do manual things and collect a wage at the end of it. That they're looking for things that have a purpose.
Yeah, and I think if they do want that as well, there's probably another 10x more options than there was before. That's probably the thing. If you're pitching your organisation as it's just money, it's just a job, then you're up against a lot more than you were before. A lot more options and more kind of lucrative. People are going to compare you to other things.
Yeah, I think so. I wonder whether as well this generation don't care so much about money and they care more about purpose. But I visited I visited a lot of our camps this summer, this Easter, and I met a lot of our people. And hard work is something that isn't lacking. Energy isn't something that isn't lacking. Professionalism, commitment. I'm bowled over and amazed at the quality of red tops that I meet on our camps. It's incredible. I think and I think if you can connect to the right people through hard work and just being industrious and just going at it all the time and describing the why and what they'll be contributing to and what the purpose of that organization is, and they're that right type of person who connects with you, I think I don't see too many problems there, to be honest. But it is a challenge. It's a daily fight, really, just to get the volume, the number of people, and obviously by location as well. It's a trick. But yeah, hard work, effort.
Switching gears a little bit. I mean, every time, it's following on from this, you mentioned around kind of like hard work, enthusiasm, commitment, lots of stuff. I mean, every time I've ever spoken to yourself, you've always come across with that great energy and like passion for the job and professionalism stuff. It must be difficult. You mentioned about the challenges you have there and the volume, etc. What is it that you do to try to kind of keep yourself working at a high level? Do you have any kind of habits and things that you do on a day to day? Are you up ice bathing in the mornings and all that type of stuff, or do you have like certain routines that keep you?
Well, up at 4 a.m, 2-hour workout, ice bath, run along the beach. No, so I think what fuels me is almost exclusively at King's. Actually, is that look, I'm a father myself, so in some way I'll connect to the principle that children are, always worth it, always worth the effort, the progression and the investment in children. I think it's some of the unique aspects of King's, actually. I think King's fuels me and it fuels itself, really. As an organisation, what we were set up to do, what we current's do, the quality of the work that we deliver, it's endlessly refreshing. And it might be tight, like, as I said, Aberdeen to Cornwall, it's quite a lot of driving, it's a lot of people to meet, but it's always worth it. So I think what drives me on personally is the work. I'm not a great fitness fanatic. I'm not. I don't think I need anything over and above that to motivate me, other than the purpose of the job, really, and how rewarding that is. Not to say that isn't hard. I climbed out of my car on Monday at about 9:30, I think it was, at night, and long days and stuff like that. But I think you can do that in lots of jobs. I think what drives me forward is the purpose and the mission of the organisation, and that can sound a bit twee.
No, I agree. I think a lot of people, especially in our sector, those listening, when you have those hard days, you kind of reflect on what you're actually doing or what you're doing it for, and you can clearly see the impact in terms of that you're having just by looking at what's going on. So it's one that
I defy you not to come to any one of our camps and see a coaching session with the children, see the bit that we do at the start around the values, KINGS, and the children interacting with that and soaking it up, and not feeling a sense that in some small way, we're just contributing to the health of the nation, really, and that we're doing our bit, and that we're having a formative, however small, and if it's just for a week or for 3 days, or if it might be for 6 weeks, might be for years, we're having a formative influence on those children, and in a positive way. And I think that's probably what drives me on, that drives our Red Tops on, our people who recruit, anyone in the organisation. It's that purpose.
Last question for me. We always have this reflective question. So if you were going to go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, just as you're starting out in your career or leaving university, whenever it'd be, like that one point when you'd like to speak to yourself, what would you go back and say?
Probably what I said earlier, really, which was do what you love, not necessarily what you're good at. So, and I also, I think, seek opportunities to get involved. So if you love kayaking, or if you love mountain climbing, or you get involved in organizations that do that, push yourself out into the world, see how far you can take that. It might turn into a job, might turn into a career. You might end up leading something in that field, and you end up having a great career and doing what you love. So get involved and do what you love. And again, that can sound a bit twee, but I think also hard work. Nothing really beats hard work.
Oh, I love that. Andrew, thanks so much for your time. It's been great. Thanks for being so transparent with us. Wishing you all the success for the future. And thanks again.
See you on camp, James.
Cheers, mate.